Hello everyone, I'm Babli Jonathan. You're welcome to this edition of The Inside on Equinoxe Television. In this edition of the program, we're going to talk about the presidential election in the Republic of Cameroon that will be coming up on the 7th of October 2018, and we'll make a focus on the voting proper and of course the campaign before the voting anyway in the crisis-stricken northwest and southwest regions of the country. We're also going to talk about the credibility of the elections with regards to the present socio-political and security atmosphere in the country, notably in the two Anglophone regions of the country as well as the northern regions of the country with the terrorist threats on that part of the country. We also going to talk about the G20 support to the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, talking about the group of 20 political parties of the opposition who decided to rally behind the head of state, Paul Biya, as far as the presidential election is concerned. We'll equally take a look at the All Anglophone Conference, or better still, the Anglophone General Conference that has been postponed. How possible is it for that conference to bring a solution or to open a door, a way out of the current socio-political and security impasse rocking the two Anglophone regions of the country? Of course, we will equally take a look at back to school. Our guest in this edition of the program is Dr. Benz BATE. He is an entrepreneur, inventor of the Benz field, an electrical earthing component used for grounding or earthing of electrical installations and equipment. He has an executive master's of business administration, MBA, and a doctorate degree in electrical engineering. He equally has a PhD in leadership, and he was one-time president of the Electricity Consultative Committee in Cameroon, specialized in the protection of electrical installations and equipment. But we're going to be receiving in his capacity as a political leader, the leader of the Cameroon Democratic Party, the CDP. It is one of the political parties, the 20 political parties that decided to rally behind the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, as far as the October 7, 2018 presidential election is concerned. Doctor, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Babila.
When you look at the political atmosphere in the country today, the social atmosphere, the security atmosphere, how do you preview this presidential election coming up on the 7th of October?
Yeah, to begin with, you know, it is true that Cameroon is facing some security problems. In the north, we have Boko Haram. In the south, we have the Anglophone crisis, and so on. But I think that there are structures in place that the government has put to see how they can carry out this organization so that it should be effective.
No.
You have ELECAM, which is the main organizing body. You have other administrative organs which are in charge of putting all the security in place. You have MINAT, you have the DOs, the SDOs, and so on. I think if everybody is responsible, they're going to organize the elections.
No, talking about the two Anglophone regions of the country, the northwest and the southwest regions precisely, do you think that elections will properly unfold in these two regions with regards to the climate?
I think that the government is doing everything possible so that there should be heat-free elections. It is true that there are problems, but I cannot predict. Anything I tell you now will be a prediction. It is only after the elections that we'll know if election is effective. But what I know is that there will be elections, so people should be ready to go and cast out their vote. It will be an opportunity, Mr. Babila, for some people to voice out what they have inside of them, to make a choice, because most of the time people go out talking, blaming others. The time to vote is when you can show where you belong and give your opinion.
But the question that has remained without a unanimous answer today is, how will campaigns take place in these two regions? How will the voting proper take place when people cannot move freely within the two regions?
Yes, I try to understand what you're saying. You are referring to the crisis and how people are suffering. Some people are not stable. In any case, I think election is a period when they call each and every one to go and take part and to make a choice concerning our leadership. And it is a very important event where I expect that people will have to show up to voice out what they think, to show their opinion, to give their opinion.
But the question is how?
How is? But it's going to happen. If you look at a country like Afghanistan, there are a lot of problems there. If you look at other countries, there are problems, but these people go to vote, so it will happen. I will show you that very question. How did the Senate electoral process go about? It went on, and some people were angry, but finally we have senators.
But the senatorial election was not a general election. We're talking about the presidential election that involved the masses who will have to move from Menji, from Libialem, who will have to move from Kejom Ketingo in the northwest region, who will have to move from all these interior places to the polling centers.
I think the electoral code made it clear that in any area there is a voting point. These people must not necessarily travel a long distance for them to vote. Those in Menji, there will be a polling station in Menji. No, those in Bachakagbe, there will be a polling station there. No. You could go a distance. I want to think that the distance will not be that long that you need to take vehicles. Remember, on that day, vehicles are not authorized to move. So there is that proximity with police station vis-a-vis the residence of citizens.
I'm pretty sure you're aware that many inhabitants of several parts of these two regions are no longer in their homes. They have fled their homes. Many of the places are deserted, and those who are there cannot even come out of their houses. The fear of the unknown is preventing them from coming out of their houses, not even to talk about those who are in the bushes, to come and vote.
Yes, you are right, Mr. Babila. You are very correct making such a statement. You see, I want you to understand, or I want our televiewers to understand that this problem of secessionists or what, we have a number of people who are looking at different. My case, from the very beginning, I had the idea, but when I got to know the right source and all what is happening, I had to change my view about it. So it's Cameroon, whether you are in Akwaya or you are in Umojok, if you set your mind to vote, you go out and vote. It is true that there are problems in Nigeria. When Buhari won the last election, there were a lot of problems. Some people even died. If you look at the Zimbabwe of recent, there were problems, but people went out and voted. The only thing I will tell televiewers will be that they should try to be decisive. They should make up their mind to go and vote so that they will take a position that is theirs. Because if you don't go to vote, then you are, putting yourself in a situation whereby you don't know where you are. Go and vote, and then vote the person you think is the right person to lead us at this time where we have crisis.
Yes, of course, it's a civic duty, as we have been hearing members of government and many other persons repeating it over and over again. But the difficulty is Mr. X is in Menji and he wants to go out and vote, but he knows that as soon as he comes out, a stray bullet can just gun him down. So with this atmosphere, how will the voting take place?
I want to think that before the election,
before the voting, the campaigning, how will the political parties...
The campaign will take place. You see, we are in a state of law where people understand what is good, and the laws of the country are being understood by everybody. If you've made up your mind to go and vote, you will surely vote.
Take the risk.
It's not about risk. I want to think that there will be some degree of calmness before the election date, because all the state is trying to do, put everything in place in such a way that people will go out and vote freely without any problems.
When those who are fighting for the restoration of the independence of the former Southern Cameroons are saying no elections and so on.
Let me tell you, Mr. Babila, this issue of fighting, I have a different way of looking at it. I happen to have discussed with the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations. I told you from the very beginning that I bought the idea. I was for it. But when I went down to Manfe, to be precise, around the 7th to the 11th of February this year, we had a commission where we sat and we were received. I personally discussed with the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations. People are thinking that, our brothers are thinking that the United Nations will come to divide Cameroon. They are getting it wrong. It has never been the mission of the United Nations to divide this country. I'm not saying that there are no Anglophone problems, but our people should try to think and think clearly. If you look at where there have been conflicts all over in the world, United Nations go there to bring peace, and they don't go there to divide the country. I don't see how Cameroon is going to be divided. We should put our efforts together and see how we can build a stronger nation rather than thinking about separating. Right. You know the case of Sudan? Where is South Sudan today? See how they are suffering. Look at Ethiopia. How many years people have been fighting? So we should think positively. Are you saying that this fighting they are doing, the houses they are destroying and all these things is what we deserve? What heritage are we going to get after all that?
All right, let's come back to the election. The elections Cameroon, the election organizing body elections Cameroon, decided to merge some polling stations into polling centers as a result of the difficult terrain, the difficult atmosphere in these two regions, the northwest and the southwest regions. Do you think this is going to help, raise the rate of participation of inhabitants of these two regions in the elections?
I think it's part of the solution you just asked a few minutes ago. You were asking to know how people are going to move from one area to the other to vote. This is part of the solution you're coming with. Elecam has merged some of these voting points in order to get it easy for people to vote. Because we all understand that there is a problem, and in order to avoid a situation whereby people will go out, they are frightened, they have decided to map out certain points where people, all those who are serious citizens who want to demonstrate their power of voting, will go there and vote.
But this will mean that somebody who was supposed to vote, for example, in Menji, will have to move to another area, will have to move to where the polling center is located in order to vote. Now, who ensures the security of the person who is moving along this way to the voting center?
There is normally the government that provides the security of. I'm here today is because there is security.
But the soldiers have been on the ground for quite some time, but people are killed,
It is not only in Cameroon that people are being killed. These things are happening everywhere. We should learn to understand that the army or whosoever, our defense forces are not there. They don't have a bad will. They are not there to kill people. The secessionists who are there are not there because they want to kill. But there is this confrontation. I don't know how I can put it. There is this disagreement, and because of this disagreement, one person is shot, the other person is going to react because somebody has been shot. It is but normal. So, but I don't think that the defense forces are there to create problem. They are peacemakers. That's their mission. They are there to protect citizens. And anybody who is a serious Cameroonian who thinks that he has an opinion will do everything to go and vote. Remember, Cameroon does not is not limited to Anglophone of the southwest and the northwest. Cameroon is involving all the other regions.
Some have interpreted the decision of Elections Cameroon to merge polling stations into polling centers as a rigging strategy.
I don't think, honestly, I don't think it's a rigging strategy. You know, I have been in politics for 15 years now, and at times when you fail, it's not because the other side is stronger than you. When you fail in your organization, you fail woefully. The parties that are coming up for this presidential election should organize in such a way that they are represented in all the polling stations. So when you talk about the Elecam has no hidden agenda. Let me put it this way. The polling station will have comprised of leaders of political parties, representative standing in for the election. So if you have polling station A, you have the representative of SDF, MDR, CPDM, and so on. Those representatives are supposed to be there to see what is happening.
Now, when the...
So I don't see where Elekam will go to. Elekam has not got that as their mission. They are there to organize. Those who are the key actors, the key players, are the representative of the political party. In fact, Cameroonians have the choice to vote whosoever they want to vote.
But will the atmosphere or the fact that many will not be able, because it's pretty sure that many...
That is now the difference. That is the difference on what we are talking. That is the politics.
Will it not create atmosphere?
Let me tell you that when you look at statistics from the last presidential election, I'm sure you agree with me that the number have gone down. So many people have not gone to register. Most of these people making noise have not registered. So how would they come up with an effective change? It's not possible. You've not registered for an election. All you have to do is to disturb those who have registered, who are willing to go and vote, those who are willing to bring effective change. Here we are talking about a general system, how the process is going to move on. We are not talking about a particular party winning because we don't know who is going to win. So the representatives of all the political parties are supposed to be effective. If a political party is not present and tomorrow he comes to contest the election, they will have themselves to be blamed.
Another question is on the credibility of this presidential election that is going to take place in a context different from the previous presidential elections as a result of all these issues that we are highlighting.
I think, Mr. Babila, the credibility of this election will depend on the different actors, stakeholders involved. A party is running for election, they must do their preparation, they must do their homework to make sure that they are represented wherever they are called to be represented. So the issue of whether it is going to be well organized, or I don't know how you want to put it, Elekam is doing its part. I'm not here to protect Elekam, I don't work for Elekam. But I want to think that the different political parties, they should try to see how they can organize themselves in such a way that they are represented in all the polling stations. That is what is important for now. And not making noise over television and radio station. Organize yourself, put the necessary resources, be ready, draw an action plan, and you kick the ball to start rolling.
All right, we're going to take a short break. Time for us to take a look at what the newspapers reported this week. The press review by Franklin Mwabe.
The Star reports the killing of 7 Southwest chiefs in months. Edin highlights warning from Territorial Administration Minister Tanganji, who has told Amber boys to surrender to the nearest security post. Still concerning the Anglophone independence struggle, the Guardian Post reports separatist historic White House demonstration. In another issue, the Daily newspaper reports that PM Yang Philemon defied Ambazonia fighters' ban and staged a CPDM rally in Bamenda Northwest region. As reported by the Post Weekender, Prime Minister Yang said during the meeting that he is not ready to pay ransom for any kidnapped militant, and so the Northwest branch of the party has banned presidential campaign rallies as insecurity heightens. The CPDM will thus carry out a door-to-door campaign in the Northwest region. In the meantime, the Horizon exclaims trial of Ayok Tabe and Co. Interrogation begins but detention extended. The Voice forecast another catastrophic school year and talking about the All Southwest Mega Forum. The media questions the possible participation of all Southwesterners. The Guardian Post says the SDF is poised for a deadly clash with security forces as the regional branch of the party plans to take to the streets to protest against polling stations in military barracks and chief palaces. And in sports, The Voice reports the presence of government officials and football icons at the Menchum Unity Cup Grand Final.
Welcome back. That was the press review by Franklin Mwabe, and we're still with our guest, Dr. BATE ENOW Benz. He is a politician, leader of the Cameroon Democratic Party, and he's one of the political leaders who decided to rally behind President Paul Biya, and this came like a bombshell to many who were thinking that opposition political parties were supposed to come together and form a stronger force that would go against the President of the Republic, but they decided to rally behind President Paul Biya. Why?
Personally, I had to discuss with my political bureau, my militants, before we had to make a decision. You see, at the beginning of every electoral year like this one, politicians carry out consultations. I had tried to meet with some of the leaders of other political parties, and it was unfortunate that most of them were not ready for the political parties to come together. After having analyzed the candidature of all those who had decided that they will run, I consulted my people. We discovered that Cameroon is in a situation which is very difficult. We have a problem at the level of the north of Cameroon, with the Boko Haram. We have the Anglophone crisis. We have an economic situation which is not very stable, which is of course normal. It happens like that. And after having analyzed, we decided that we are going to accompany the head of state, President Paul Biya, to stand for the presidential election come 2018.
The same President Paul Biya, you have been standing on the opposite side of him?
Yes, for sure.
Opposing him very strongly, even in previous presidential elections?
Yes, you are very correct. You know, there is what you call change. You know, the fundamental, or I can put it, the foundational instrument of change is when you look at, you analyze the situation, and you are able to draw a line and to know whether if you are going on your left, you are right, or you are going on the right, you are wrong. It is only change that can enable you, when you have hope. When you have hope, you can easily change your decision. For example, if somebody poses you a question and you have the thinking that what he's saying is not right, you are not hopeful. And so that will not push you to support his idea. But after having analyzed the situation, I've looked into the files of all the other presidential candidates. The only candidate that I think is the best candidate that will carry us during this period where Cameroon is faced with a lot of crisis is the head of state. It's President Paul Biya. He has started with his humanitarian action. We are seeing it on the field. I want to think that he's like, he has said that he's going to solve the problem, and it is already in the field. Some people are seeing some changes. If we allow him this other mandate, I think after his re-election, we are going to realize that there will be a solution with the Anglophone problem. Remember,
for the last close to 4 decades, you've been on the other side,
yes,
saying, Mr. Biya, you have not done this, Mr.
Yes.
Biya, you have not done this, you have failed here, you have failed here, you have brought this country to its knees, and today you're saying that in 7 years, the same President Biya is the only candidate, the best leader to solve the problems of this nation.
Yeah, let me tell you that Cameroon is a country that is growing very fast. If you look at the infrastructural machinery that were put in place in those days, President Biya is trying to carry this country to industrialization. He's trying to bring transfer of technology. If you look at, they have put in place a lot of infrastructures concerning energy. That is a key indication that the economy is going to be booming. We could not go to create industries when we don't have energy, because it is only energy that can power the running of machines. If you look at the action plan of the head of state, he's trying to put things in an orderly manner. So it is not like, let me put it this way, I didn't see it clearly before. Now I've seen that he has a roadmap. Coupled with the fact that there is these Anglophone problems, my people are in the bushes. I have talked to him personally, and he has assured us that he is very ready to solve this problem. In fact, 90% of the problems that were raised by teachers and lawyers have been solved. And many of such problems are still in the pipeline. That should not call for people to go destroy houses, destroy hospitals, kill people, and so on.
What will you tell those who are disappointed with political leaders like you, Jean de Demumo, Isaac Feze, and many of those who have joined what is today known as the G20 to support President Paul Biya instead of reinforcing the strength of the opposition?
If they could get the strength of the opposition, they can equally get the strength of the head of state. Why not? It's a question of choice. You have your thinking. Everybody has an opinion. It is my opinion. It is that of my party to support the head of state because I think that he is the right person. That is the situation.
And all your militants are behind you?
For sure. My militants are behind me. They supported the idea. I took the idea to them, and they supported the idea that we should rally behind the head of state, if and only if he is there to solve our problems. If you look at the communique, let me tell you, some people are saying that this G20, they don't know where they are from. I personally organized the G20. I consulted most of the presidents of other political parties. I started by asking their opinion. What do you think we can do? Are we to come together? Do you know one thing that will surprise you? I met somebody who told me that, oh, when they started this thing in 2002, we were not there. So he's saying that he must be the candidate. Another candidate was telling me that, oh, this is what, if it is not me. So it was like a one-man show. The opposition had failed to come together. Let me ask you this question, Mr. Babila.
And is this not
what has happened?
Is this yet not another failure?
It's a failure. It's a question of choice.
For the opposition, the fact that you have decided to fragment the opposition, to divide the opposition by joining the other side. It
will not change anything. Let me tell you where I draw my inspiration. If you look at the geopolitical map of Cameroon, Cameroon has 360 subdivisions. Among these subdivisions, I happen to be one of the members of the National Vote Counting Commission for 2013 legislative election. I was there, not that I heard. I went through all the 700 pages that I visited. I noticed that 80% of the councils in Cameroon, President Biya's party won without any opposition, without any party standing against, even competing.
But the results were contested.
Yeah, they contest elections everywhere, even in the United States. Elections were contested.
With the opposition, including your party.
For sure, it is normal.
Rigging and fraud.
Democracy is a progressive something. You know, we are trying to work to see how we can improve into our democracy. If you look at the elections of Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump's, you tell me that those elections were contested, not so? If you look at it very well now, you realize that some people are dragging others to court, that there were some election malpractices. So Cameroon cannot be any different. Show me one country in the world where a presidential election goes on and at the end there is no complaint. Look at the case of Rwanda, the case of Zimbabwe. The person who won, the other person was complaining that, oh, it was not hitch-free and so on. So you see, this issue of election is like how we manage our homes. There's always a problem. And you end up trying to agree. You may disagree at one point in time, but at the end of the day, you come together and life goes on.
And today you're supporting President Paul Biya. How far do you intend to go in this direction?
Sorry?
How far do you intend to go in this direction?
I will go to where my force will take me to. I will go to where my militants will take me to. Don't forget that we are in democracy. We are in democracy. You have the opinion to choose the person you want. Nobody should force me to go to an opposition party. I am not blind. I'm seeing where how my people can be liberated. We are in a situation whereby people are suffering. We need somebody who master the dossier, so to speak. We need somebody who is soft-spoken. It's not about dictatorship. It's not about saying that, oh, overhead some people are saying that my first action will be this. How will you do it? Write it now and let it be implemented. It is easy to say it. It's not like we see. Politics is a game, and you must identify your interest. My interest is my populace, my population, the people of the Southwest and Northwest region. And I put Cameroon in my party. I put Cameroon first. So this issue of saying that we are supporting, I don't see, is there any crime in supporting President Paul Biya?
Now, some critics have qualified you and the other political leaders, the other 19 opposition political leaders who have decided to support President Paul Biya as stomach politicians.
Stomach politicians?
Politicians who are working for their personal interests and not for the interests of Cameroonians. I
think my first interest is that of my people. I said it just a few seconds ago. My first interest is that of my people. The people who elected me to the post of president of the Cameroon Democratic Party. I have to serve them. And what I'm doing is not only personal, I'm doing it. Let me tell you, I received a lot of calls from the very first day where I read our speech declaring our support to the head of state, President Paul Biya. I had a lot. The number of people who called to say, oh, why did you do, were very few. So I think that I am, as my people are with me, I'm with them.
Did you receive anything from President Biya?
What do I need to receive?
From the CPDM?
I told you it is a collective effort. It's not me that I did not decide to go canvass or to give support to President Biya. We sat down, we decided. I discussed with other presidents of political parties. After I've discussed with my local politicians, they have given me the go-ahead. When I met Momo, I met Report, I met all the other Esomba and so on, I asked them, are we coming up with with a single candidate? They said they are not seeing that as a positive approach. What do we do? Finally, those of us who had our programs which goes similar, we decided to come together. And now, let me tell you, some people are saying, oh, they gave us this. Nobody gave us anything. We did that because we have the love of Cameroon. Let me tell you what you might not have done by now. You should start thinking about those who are fighting that they want a separate state. Do you know about the sponsors of what they are trying to do, those who are sponsoring those activities? They want to sell our oil in Bakassi. That is the truth. They are giving money to people to fight so that they can sell our oil. The head of state can equally do that as a president. But he wants to leave a legacy. He has that human feeling that Cameroon should remain united and should be rich. It's not a question whereby a group of individuals will go and collect monies from abroad and they say, let me tell you, I was consulted. I was consulted. If you don't know, I have all the information. I have the background information. Some people are fighting, they don't really know what they are fighting. It is about selling oil. It's about petrol.
We'll be coming back to this in a short while. And
because the head of state has refused to sell, the price of petrol has dropped so much that if you are selling at a giveaway price. What are we going to inherit?
These same allegations you're raising as far as some separatist leaders are concerned are also levied against you.
Against me as a person?
Not you as a person, your political party and the other parties of the opposition.
Yes.
That they have been paid.
What do we owe them?
That they have been paid.
Paid for what?
To stand behind President Biya.
I don't need to be paid. I have my conscience to judge me. I don't need to be paid. Why should I be paid? How much was I paid? When? And who did it?
Or that they are seeking for ministerial position?
No, I'm not interested. Look, let me tell you, I'm not interested in a ministerial position. I am a self-employed man. I have people that work for me. I'm not a hungry man. I don't know how I can put it. I'm not hungry to go say I'm seeking for a presidential position. It is not my dream. I am supporting President Paul Biya because we analyze that it is almost impossible. I want to make it that it's not possible for the opposition to win this upcoming election. And let me tell you, and as a positive thinker, you don't go fight a war you know you will not win.
Why is it impossible?
It is impossible because when you look at the arithmetic, if you look at the various figures, you realize that there's no representation. How are they going to win? Tell me how they're going to win. We have 360 council seats. How many of these political parties are represented within Cameroon? How many of them are represented within the southwest region? Do you know the last results of the parliamentary elections?
But we have parties.
All the opposition party did not score up to. It is easy to understand. Politics is a game of interest.
But we have parties like the Social Democratic Front that is practically represented everywhere across the country.
It is not. It's not like you see.
We have the CRM party. We have many other parties, and we equally have men of caliber in this election this time around.
I salute all those men of caliber. They are Cameroonians of high moral standards. That is clear. There's nothing to differ with that. I want to tell you that these political parties, we have discussed with them, and the organigram, the organization, the resources does not permit us to work with them. I don't know if you understand. Get it clear.
Because they are bound to failure. Is that what
it is? When you put, if your plan is not well organized, if you don't have a good strategy, you can't succeed even in business. These things we all know. If you are managing your home...
Is it a problem of strategy? Is it a problem of organization? Or a problem of a bad electoral code, as you of the opposition are saying? Or a problem of election rigging and fraud?
All of these are involved. I didn't say the electoral code is bad. Let me tell you something. Professor Kamto was at the time the person in charge. He is the one that handed that file, that scrutinized, went and checked thoroughly before sending that file to the assembly. That was 2008. What happened? He was asking that they should open the mandate for presidential elections, for presidential candidates to be re-elected. Today, where does he find himself? You see that at times you go to take decisions, you don't know that those same decisions you are taking will affect you tomorrow. So it's some sort of a thing that they should think before reacting. That is a clear example of a failure leadership. You are for something today, and tomorrow what you endorse becomes a problem. It means you did not think properly before taking a decision. It's Kamto Maurice. He has nothing to tell people.
But you were against President Paul Biya yesterday.
I told you why. I didn't see well. I didn't, it took me some time to go through what is happening in the country, the development which the head of state is doing. And now I came to understand that where we were participating. But now that we are not going for election, we have the opportunity to vote somebody. And the person, the only candidate that is qualified for this race is Paul Biya. It's our choice. And I want to convince you that if you give your card to the head of state, you have nothing to regret.
Doctor,
it's a pleasure.
We are not yet campaigning. We are not yet campaigning.
You can put it anyway.
We're going to take interviews of the week right now, and when we come back, we continue on our series on the way out of the current socio-political impasse rocking the northwest and the southwest regions of the country, with special focus on the All Anglophone Conference, or the Anglophone General Conference that will be coming up after the election. Stay with us.
The terrorists will be trapped. They will have no hiding place. Globally, I can tell you that the situation is under control. The governor and the administrative authorities are doing a wonderful job. And the head of state told me to extend his encouragements to the forces of law and order, defense forces and administrative authorities who have done everything despite all the odds to maintain calm and a serene atmosphere in the region.
Fear continue to disturb many of you. You should not fear. The area is seriously secured. Even those who are coming from various quarters, you can realize together that we have increased security in town, and even in some villages. Those who are now going to Kwakwa.
You have a hitch-free election in the region, because following the statistics given by the administrative authorities and the force of law and order, we can tell you that the terrorists are in certain places. We have small pockets of resistance which will not last for long. In any case, I can tell you that the region is very, very calm. The administrative authorities are doing their job, and the populations are returning gradually.
Those who are afraid to come, you see, all those things are for them. They have just to come here, to turn green, come and collect their own share.
The prodigal son should come out of the bush, and when you go and report yourself to the police, to the gendarme, or to the governor, or to the GO, or to the senior officer, that I was deceived. I mean, I've stayed in the bush, and I see that I have no future. So you have to lay down your weapon.
We have started this distribution in Momo division today to coincide with the feast of the Ram, when we know that our Muslim brothers and sisters are supposed to be celebrating and praying for Allah. And we know that amongst them, there are some who are suffering.
We'll introduce school scholarships again for those children coming from families that have the biggest economic difficulties. We will introduce a effective free, but mandatory education in the public schools in Cameroon up to the first cycle of secondary schooling. We'll introduce an education program 2.0 to develop infrastructure as well as the IT capacity in our educational system. We will immediately close the school called ENOW. We will stop all fixed police barriers all over the national territory. We will integrate the vigilant committees present today in the northern part of the country and fighting against Boko Haram into the forces of law and order. We will put in place a 2-round presidential election with a single ballot and a mandate of 5 years. We will put in place a national conference for reconciliation, truth, and reparation, as well as a program to disarm and demobilize and reinsert Cameroonians who are in need. We will delocalize the capital of the Center region into another locality of the Center region. We will promote the delocalization of certain administrations into the regions where they are best needed. We will establish our monetary sovereignty. We will reduce the size of government to 20 departments. We'll actively promote the Transaqua project, which is meant to refill Lake Chad with water and all that follows. We will install a universal national service for our youth. And finally, we will propose the candidature of Cameroon to co-host with other African nations the 2030 World Cup.
I find the program of Joshua Osei pertinent. At the beginning, when he presented the program, I thought it was just an ambitious program. But when he started taking questions from the journalists, I equally realized that the candidate Joshua Osei mastered very well what he has presented on paper, and that he has given Cameroonians a lot of hope.
Osei Joshua said it clearly that he is open to the media and that he's going to work with the media. And you and I can agree that. Just the fact that he went as far as taking several questions, in fact from all media organs, is a show that Osei Joshua is a candidate that Cameroonians, and especially the press, is going to work with.
The goal is to help them to be owners of their own development. I think that's the way forward to address poverty and misery at the roots in Africa. The idea of aid is not helping. It goes again through the top, and it doesn't go to the bottom. So this model begins from the bottom to the top. empowering the young people to be job creators instead of job seekers.
Visit was to sign a memorandum of understanding between the Cameroon Navy and the Brazilian Navy in order to provide, to integrate a system of surveillance so that we can share information about for the maritime security and in the Gulf of Guinea. And the idea is that this project is a pilot project with Cameroon that later we will extend to, we may extend to other countries of the Gulf.
Kofi Annan, the man, you know, the person that we came to appreciate, was someone who started very humbly within the United Nations system. He was the first, and I would say he still is, Secretary General of the United Nations to have come from the ranks of staff of the United Nations. Before then and since then, Secretaries General of the UN have tended to come from member states, former ministers, former prime ministers, and all of that. But for a staff member of the United Nations, Kofi Annan was the first and so far the only to accede to that position. Unlike his predecessors, who tended to center policy and strategy around member state interests, Kofi Annan made every effort to make the United Nations a people-centered organization. Hence his emphasis on peace, hence his emphasis on development, hence his emphasis on human rights, the three main pillars of United Nations work during the 10 years where Kofi Annan was Secretary General. With regard to our own country, Cameroon, I think the greatest service that Kofi Annan rendered us and the legacy that he left us was brokering the peace between Cameroon and Nigeria over the Bakassi Peninsula. One of the graphic images that one sees is that of him standing there as President Biya and President Obasanjo exchanged this handshake. It's a graphic image of Kofi Annan as peacemaker.
Thanks for staying with us. We are still with our guest, Dr. Benz BATE. The All Anglophone General Conference, convened by some religious and civil society leaders, is seen by some as an important event that will open a way forward out of this crisis, but many are equally seeing it from another perspective as something that is that shouldn't take place, something that is poorly conceived, something that is a manipulation of some individuals for their own personal interests. What's your take on this event?
You see, the initiative is okay, but I think there is some organizational problems involved with those who are trying to organize this All Anglophone Congress. I suggested that they should have contacted the different stakeholders and try to get their opinion before go about announcing a date, so that this should not be in conflict with the government and the different civil society. I think if this Congress was called up, it's like to see how we can get a lasting solution to the problems affecting the Northwest and the Southwest region. But again, a lot of work still has to be done for that Congress to succeed, if he has to succeed. Do
you see the conference as a door opener as far as this crisis?
It could be a door opener event, but it depends on the, you see, the person who organizes a meeting knows why he's organizing a meeting. There is, I'm talking here like an expert in leadership or a politician. It is commonly said that before a meeting, there is a pre-meeting. So if you don't get the stakeholders involved, you easily manipulate them. And people of goodwill will not accept to be manipulated. For example, they are talking about All Anglophone Conference. most of the stakeholders are not aware. Some individuals got up, people who are very credible. I think that they would have tried to see how they could get some key stakeholders in the different domain. How many of us politicians were consulted before that conference was announced? How many civil society organizational leaders within the Northwest and Southwest were consulted? When you want to succeed in an activity or in an event, you must prepare yourself with the different stakeholders. It's when you prepare yourself, you get them to be involved, then it will be difficult for them to go complaining.
Now, the government, through the Minister of Communication, said yes to every idea that is intended to,
like I've said too,
restore peace. But some of the requests of the men of God and civil society leaders who convened this conference cannot be granted, notably,
you know why?
The liberation of,
you know why?
Detainees of the Anglophone crisis.
Okay, you cannot start, you cannot, Mr. Babila, you cannot start wanting to solve a problem, and then you are giving conditions.
No, they were not.
The resolutions that would have...
There were requests for a conducive atmosphere for this conference to take place, because those who are in jail are equally part of the Anglophone population.
So were they supposed to be there? So are you saying that those who were caught in real act raping children, or those who were caught in human slaughter, or those who were caught burning houses should be released? Is that what you are saying?
They have to take part in the conference. That's the request.
The conference was not made. You see,
the request of the leaders.
Yeah, I do not agree with you. This conference that was supposed to be held was to find a way out to solve these Anglophone problems. It was not like to take people who, some of the people who were detained, to come and talk on the table. Okay, if you want to put it that way, with whom are we going to talk on the side of the Amazonis? Who are those who are going to come and talk? Because now the government is like open. Who are those who are coming forward? You know what? Can you identify one Amazonia? Or one secessionist?
No, the request of the men of God is this.
Yes.
Let those who have to take part in this conference be liberated to come, and let the atmosphere be conducive.
We are still looking forward to having that conference. It is good. But the organization was poorly done. For example, you cannot ask the government, you want the government to liberate everybody? That's the question. Those who went and raped children, 950 young girls were raped. Are you saying that your child was raped and they released the person who did the act? Didn't you watch the other day when military people who were caught or who were involved in some of the killings were arrested and they are in prison? You see that it is not one-sided. We should not look at it as if it is a problem. This government is our government. It is our government. We are the ones to enjoy this government. So if we start spoiling it, it doesn't make sense.
Now, what about the demilitarization of the Northwest and the Southwest regions for this conference to take place in an atmosphere that is conducive?
The first thing, Mr. Babila, is that we have not yet agreed. There is no meeting if those who are to attend the meeting have not given their opinion, if they are to attend or not. You prepare a meeting, and when the meeting is successful to come, you know that you are going to have Mr. A will be present, Mr. B will be present. Who are those who are invited in the meeting? If you are inviting somebody, take example, you have a company that is supposed to sit and take an important decision. There are invitation letters which are being sent out for people to attend. You address the names of those who you are inviting, and you tell them why you are inviting them for a meeting. That was not done.
Now,
okay, who are those who are you saying that the entire Northwest and the Southwest population will come to attend the conference?
If you were in the position to advise the conveners of this meeting, what will you tell them at this point in time?
It is, I'm glad that you've asked this important question. For this conference to succeed, they must sit down, they should have a planning meeting, and then try to reach out to opinion leaders. There are key leaders in every society that if you touch, you are going to touch the people. You go to meet presidents of associations, representative of religious groups, and so on. You invite these people, and they will go down and they will discuss with their populists, and then they will get you to know their opinion. It is when you meet with these key actors, and then they accept with the opinion, then you can go ahead, you invite them officially, you inform the government that this is what you intend to do. For example, if you inform the government that you've met leaders, youth leaders in Fako, for example, youth leaders in Meme, religious groups, and these people have responded affirmatively that they are ready for this conference, and you want the government to accompany you people for security reasons, that will be done. You don't organize. Let me tell you what we did with the G20. Some people were accusing us forcefully. You know why we went to Minat? We had to take an authorization so that what we are doing, the government should not look at it as something which is illegal. We took an authorization, we consulted among ourselves, we seek for advice, and then that is why you saw that our event was a successful one.
We're going to run up this edition of the program with back to school. 2 years have elapsed, 2 academic years have elapsed in a very tense and difficult atmosphere, with many pupils, many students not going to school in the northwest and the southwest regions, many schools not functioning at all, and another academic year is here. How do you perceive this forthcoming academic year?
We all wish that our children should go back to school. There is one point which is very clear between the government and the secessionists. Both parties agree about the school of our children. I don't think the secessionists are saying that there should be no school, except you are telling me that now. Before now,
that's what they're saying.
Yeah, but it is rather unfortunate. If you go to America, you go to London, you go to Afghanistan, where people are fighting every day, people go out to protest. They organize themselves, they send their children to school before going to protest. So what future do they hold for Cameroon if they don't want our younger ones to go to school? What if they never went to school? That is no question. Nobody should deprive any child to go, from going to school. It's our fundamental right.
Yes, it's a right.
Yes.
The context in which the school is, the back to school is, the schools will be reopening, is not a good one.
Yeah, but let me tell you, every home have a problem. You agree with me that there had been a time when you have a problem, maybe with your son or with your wife, but you end up agreeing, and life goes ahead. I don't think that there will be any problem affecting school, but if at all, those who want to avoid school from opening should consider these children who have been down for long without going to school.
Dr. Benz,
we should not pretend to ourselves.
Political leader of the Cameroon Democratic Party, CDP, one of the parties supporting the candidacy of President Paul Biya. Thanks so much for accepting to be a guest in this edition of the program.
It's my pleasure. I want to tell the televiewers that they should know that the only candidate, the only one candidate that can solve our Anglophone problem is Paul Biya. The only candidate that can bring this country back to life is Paul Biya. I'm very optimistic. I'm optimistic because with his humanitarian action, if you give him another term, you will see how everything to come back to normalcy.
Time will come for campaign, Dr.
This is not Benz. A campaign. I have the privilege to talk to my televiewers, tell them what I feel. Otherwise, you invited me here to talk only what you think I should say.
Thanks so much, Doctor. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us in this edition of the program. Take the appointment for another edition next Sunday. Goodbye.